Zaid Jilani of The Intercept has an incredible article that I want to share with everybody. Study finds relationship between high military casualties and votes for Trump over Clinton. What? So, in the places that were more affected by war, they preferred Trump over Clinton. That's an anomaly, in that usually the places that are more affected by war go for the Democrat. That's weird. Why didn't they go for the Democrat in this instance? You know, military families, I guess it was 2008. But on the Democratic side, it was Obama they supported. On the Republican side, Ron Paul. Military families overwhelmingly supported Ron Paul. So they go for who they think is the candidate less likely to send them to die. So let me tell you exactly what they say here. A new study suggests that Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump won more votes from communities with high military casualties than from similar communities which suffered fewer casualties. Recall that Trump campaigned as a somewhat anti-war candidate who would break with bipartisan pro-war consensus, a promise he has not lived up to, and which didn't exactly match his past record. His Democratic opponent, Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, ran a campaign more or less embracing the war status quo, with the emphasis, occasionally, as with the fire of Syria, on more. Boston University political science professor Douglas Crenera and University of Minnesota law professor Francis Shen studied the relationship between military casualties and pro-Trump votes. Comparing the 2012 and 2016 presidential elections, they concluded that regions that had seen high concentrations in casualties over the past 15 years of warfare saw a swing in support towards Trump. The researchers controlled for a number of other factors, including race, income, and education. They also controlled for the percentage of the population that lives in rural areas and the military veteran population. Both populations tended to support Trump overall, so controlling for these variables means that the number of military casualties was still a statistically significant driver of the vote, even in rural areas that share many of the same characteristics. Their model also suggests that 3 swing states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, could very well have been winners for Clinton if their war casualties were lower. Or if Hillary wasn't so pro-war. Will the corporate Democrats ever learn? So this is now another study that verifies the instincts of progressives and the populist left from day one. I mean, one of the things we said is, Hillary, oh my God, you're running an entire campaign and not mentioning anything about policy substance. What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? What was it? Only 25% of her ads focused on policy? The rest of it was like, the other guy's so bad. Yeah, he's like bad. Isn't he so bad? Anyway, here's some platitudes and some cliches. We should break down the barriers and we're like stronger together. That's what we are. We're like stronger together. So, cliches, platitudes, attacking the other person. You're not saying anything about what you're for. You're not inspiring people. There's no policy there. What do progressives say? Iceberg dead ahead. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to lose to this buffoon. What are you doing? Trump was a fake populist the entire time, and half the time he was anti-war. So the fake populist stuff was, yeah, I'm against TPP. I'm gonna keep your jobs here. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look at the forgotten man will never be forgotten again. On war, he said, what are we doing in Afghanistan? We got to rebuild here at home. We got to do an infrastructure deal. Stop the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, rebuild here. Half the time he said that. The other half the time he was uber hawkish when he said, let's kill civilians, kill family members of ISIS. But we said, okay, there's a problem. Hillary never talks about being anti-war because she's not anti-war. At least Trump half the time talks about being anti-war. She also, on trade, because of Bernie Sanders, she should have thanked Bernie Sanders. She tepidly came out against TPP. But no, she should have been like hitting that point every single speech, and she would have done much better in the Rust Belt because they were destroyed by trade. So the region that was most destroyed by outsourcing jobs, which she supported, and by wars, which she supported, turns out they went for the other guy. We warned you. You have to focus on policy substance. You have to be anti-war. You have any idea how easy this election would have been if she was unapologetic for Medicare for all, for free college, for not doing those trade deals, and she hit those talking points 1,000 times more than Trump? Now, look, it would have came... People who are really in the know, like actual progressives who follow this stuff very closely, we would have known that she was bullshitting. But at the same time, I would have said, this strategy is going to work and she's going to win, because she would have won, and it would have worked. Even if she's bullshitting, it would have worked, because Trump was bullshitting too. If she could bullshit better than Trump could and talk about all these progressive ideas that she's for, talk about how she's anti-war and all that stuff, yeah, she would have won easy. But she didn't. They couldn't even figure out that the ideas that poll super popular are the things they should say. That's how bad her campaign was. But now we know, again, this is proven now. They controlled for all the other factors. They're like, yeah, one of the biggest factors was they voted for Trump because she voted for the wars that directly affected these communities, killed the family members of a lot of the people who were voting in the election. They're ravaged by war, these communities, and she's so disconnected from it all. You know, arguing for more war, more intervention in Syria, being super hawkish when it comes to Russia. You know, to the extent that she said, oh yeah, Iraq was a mistake, she just mentions it in passing. She doesn't, like, explain what really went on in her mind and why she voted like that and how she won't make that mistake again, because she wants to make that mistake again in Syria. Topple the authoritarian strongmen in the Middle East. That was the problem in Iraq. So she did Libya, she did Iraq. She voted for the Patriot Act, which takes away our constitutional rights. So now we know. A study says, yes, the populist left was right all along. We warned you and you didn't listen. And the craziest part is they're not listening again today. Go ahead. See, I'm sure the liberal network is covering this, right? MSNBC? Nope, of course not. They're the Democratic Apologist Network, not a liberal network. They're not liberal. They're not progressive. They're not populist left. They are the Democratic Network. So cover up for the beloved Democrats. So Hillary, shh, don't criticize her. You can't say that people didn't want to vote for her in those communities because they were affected by war and she's pro-war. Can't say that. Can't say that. CNN, is anybody covering this? Very few outlets are covering this because there's a very inconvenient truth in here. The Democrats need to look inward and need to get back to their roots, need to get back to what they should have been for all along. Medicare for all, free college, a New Deal, legalizing marijuana, ending the wars. These are ideas that are overwhelmingly popular and that we need to implement in the country. And if they don't stand for it, they'll keep losing.